Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Rabid Dog's House, where we like to discuss lost or forgotten horror gems with a little bit of bite. I'm your host, Justin Steele, and tonight we are going to talk about 2001's Valentine. Directed by Jamie Banks and starring Denise Richards, David Boreanaz, Marley Shelton, Jessica Capshaw, and Katherine Heigl. Friends since junior high, a group of young women are being sent Valentines from an individual donning a creepy Cupid mask. This stalker might have something to do with an event that happened to the women in junior high when a young boy who asked each of them to dance was tormented by school bullies. Long-held tensions are uncovered as the ladies are being picked off one by one, and it becomes up to the remaining women to solve the mystery before it's too late. Valentine is great for the horror fan that enjoys a 2000s update to the 1970s and 80s holiday slasher formula. Also joining me tonight is my amazing co-host, Zena Dixon. And thanks again, everybody, for joining us for another episode of the Rabid Dog's House. Thank you, Zena, my amazing co-host. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you? I don't know what that was.
I love it. A little dance move. Because I'm excited. We're going to talk about Valentine tonight. We were discussing last time about the next episode, and we both were like super electrified to talk about it. And I just love this movie. So real quick, I'll say everybody how I got into it. I don't have a really long story. It was a pretty traditional. I was probably about 19 or so when it came out. I went and saw it at the movie theater with a friend of mine. Loved it, beginning, middle, end. It's definitely got this clear. It's like a 2000s version of an 80s holiday slasher, or a 70s holiday slasher. It's not trying to be a masterpiece or to transcend the genre like Scream or because it's of that, I think it's of that generation. But like when we talked about Joyride, it just wants to entertain. It's not trying to be anything brilliant, but in comparison to a similarly themed movie, My Bloody Valentine, I personally think Valentine is much more Valentine's Day than My Bloody Valentine. I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, no offense, but coal miners don't really speak Valentine's Day to me, and that goes for the original and the remake. Whereas this one, they clearly you had the Cupid Mask, which I thought was fantastic. You have the Valentine's Day cards, the chocolates, the maggot-filled chocolates, and I just thought everything was great about it. But Zena, how did you first come into it? What do you love? What do you like about it?
So similar to you, very simple story. I actually did not get to see it in theaters, and I'm very upset about that. But I remember I first watched it, I think maybe, I don't even remember. Maybe I was like 14, 15, because we're like a couple of years. I think I was still in high school, though. I was still in high school and trying to sneak around to watch the movie. Anyway, I remember they wouldn't let me in the movie theater, so that's why I didn't see it. Isn't that so annoying? Anyway, So I waited till it was out on video, rented it, and I loved it. Like you said, it feels like it's like a throwback slasher from the 80s or the 70s. And even with the different characters, it's like these group of friends, these girls, they seem like they would actually be friends. Because sometimes when you watch something, it's just like, why are you guys friends? That's weird. But no, I can see them being friends, and they actually have personalities. Sure, some of the personalities are a little bit like, generic. We've seen it before, but it works for this movie. I even love the fact, again, that it takes place around Valentine's Day, because like you said, besides from this one, we have My Bloody Valentine, and we're getting some stuff here and there, but to me, this one has always been just a fun slasher movie, and I remember there were like a lot of people who they just were not fans of it at all, but I've been starting to notice that that's starting to change because it has that feel. Like that throwback feel. But even back in the early 2000s, it felt that way. So, but yeah, if you have not seen this movie, like, I highly recommend that you check it out. And the cast, what a great cast.
Such a great cast. I think too, just to respond to what you were saying too, the criticisms at the time were all like, oh, just another 80s slasher reminiscent of an 80s slasher formulaic movie. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what I want. So great. Why is that necessarily
Right.
and I think that the cast is great. I think that's really important considering that like you're supposed to believe these girls have been best friends since
Mhm.
junior high school. I could believe it. I
Same.
was sold. I thought, and I think that they're each cast from Denise Richards to Marley Shelton. I think they're all kind of cast as like these almost generic stereotypes,
Mhm.
but they actually like transcend and make like believable characters out of them. There's
Right.
not like maybe Dorothy has the biggest like over arc, story
Mhm.
arc, character development, but in general, but it's still believable. It's not like they start off timid, there's a tour de force performance, and then they're also in a warrior. I mean, it's
Right.
just like very natural. I feel like it's
Mhm.
very natural. But yeah, I like a good 80s slasher. I feel like there's that pressure at that time. Every movie because of what Scream did, it's
Right.
like I know we did last summer, Urban Legends 2, which we have
Mhm.
to do an episode on eventually. But
Yes.
like we were talking about last time, I love it. But like it's like all of them like there was a pressure that
Mhm.
like unless they did something to transcend the genre, it's not going to be a good
Right.
movie. And it's like, sure, now for in the critics' defense, I can understand a little bit about Valentine in terms of we've now it's like the end of that, so I could see where people were maybe getting tired of it, but
Mhm.
that wasn't my reaction. My reaction was like, oh, good, because it was just basic. There
Right.
was enough of a story. I liked the characters. Like I love Denise Richards. I think she
Mhm.
does fantastic. Again, I think Jessica Capshaw as Dorothy has like the most interesting stuff to do with it. But Marley Shelton too. I always really enjoy her, but I always feel like whether intended or not, she's ended up being in a few like darker movies like
Right.
Valentine, Planet Terror. There was another one I was thinking of. Scream 4.
Oh
And
yeah,
she
Deputy
always
Judy.
yeah, that's right. She always has this sort of like comedic edge to her, whether it's intended or not. But like the scene where she's out of the shower and she has to like dip her hair into the toilet, and that's what's great about this movie is that there are these like cringe-worthy moments, like the chocolates with the
Right.
maggots.
Oh.
Marley Shaw, I'm always happy to see her, but I don't know if it's intended or not. But she does have this nice comedic vulnerability that she sort of brings
She
to the roles.
does.
But but yeah, who are some of your favorites of the cast?
So I do like Marley's character, but when she dipped her head in the toilet, I'm just thinking, okay, just put your hair up in a bun and you'll be all right. You know what I mean? It'll just look like really slick and great. You'll be fine. I would never. But anyway, no, but I really like her. And honestly, I love Denise Richards'
Yeah,
character, Paige.
yeah.
I was so upset. Spoiler, she dies. But I was
Yeah, spoilers from here. We got it.
spoilers, but yeah, I was so upset when she did because it's just like no. But and honestly, what's the little blonde, the blonde who was also in not Final Destination. She was in Urban Legends Final Cut.
Yeah, Lily is her name in the movie. I can't remember
Yeah.
Jessica. I think it's like Jessica Cauffiel or something like
Okay.
that. Or, but
Okay.
yeah,
But
Lily is in this one.
her, even with her, I liked her character. I liked
Yeah,
her
I love
character. I mean,
her.
I felt
Yeah,
bad for her when she started dating that guy and
right. The
that
art guy, the art douchebag.
right, yeah, come on. Why would you even be with him?
Right,
But no, there's
right.
just there's just so much to love about it. It's like
Yeah,
these young, mid 20 something year old women, and they live like where? Like is it like San Francisco?
I think
Somewhere
so.
yeah, in California. And they really do, like you said, seem like they're a great bond. I love the cast. But honestly, even though Paige was like she's my favorite, I also had a thing for Dorothy. Like
Yeah,
I just wanted her to win, and it's just like it's so sad because her home life, we saw the way her father like treated her with his younger bride. The bride is
right,
younger than her, that come on. And it makes me think like, okay, why are you still living there? But then it's
right,
just like
right.
you're literally a poor little rich girl that you're so desperate to cling to. What's his name?
Campbell.
I was gonna call him Connor. Yeah, but with Campbell, and it's just like, okay, you just met him. You just met him. Like you don't see anything. And then even when she was explaining to the detective, well, it's a very exclusive club. Okay, don't you think that some sleazy man would just hang out there? And it's so crazy because she's just as beautiful as the other women.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
you don't have to be desperate, And when she said that whole speech about, why not me? Why can't the fat girl have a chance? And it's just like, okay, you are still holding on to some major, major anger from middle school. And you're a grown woman. It's not even like high school. But then again, even what she did, to Jeremy, that's crazy. And like this means that he planned this, Justin. He had this plan for years.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't mean to laugh, but that is like a psychopath.
Right, basically too, for like just because these girls said no to him. If you think about it, the girls didn't really do anything to him other than Dorothy. You can understand why he wanted revenge on Dorothy, but shouldn't he have taken revenge on the bullies? The girls, they're allowed to say no. You know what I mean? But I sidetrack. I did think about this. I'm like, wait, the girls really only said no
That's
other than
true.
Dorothy,
That's true.
who,
And it's like
you know,
it makes me wonder. I'm pretty sure that he probably did get those guys back though.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he
But
clearly a psychopath.
like
Like,
Dorothy got it like the worst. Her life, like, and it was just kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, like when I first watched it, obviously I thought I knew who it was. It just pointing to this one character. It's like it's clear as day, clear as day. But then when that twist happened, and I'm just like, wait, what? You know? But then, then the end we saw
another twist.
There's a twist within a twist, and that's something that I really appreciate. And it's just like I've always wondered, like I don't think that this movie should have had like a sequel. Just leave it alone. No more
For
sequel.
sure.
But I don't know about you, but I'm open to a remake. Would you ever be open to a remake?
Oh, sure. As we've said many times on the show, I'm open to a lot of remakes, and this one, absolutely. I feel like, it's one of those movies, it's been 20 years. Why not?
Right? And I know the director, so they recently been celebrating 20 years. 20 years, like you said, that this movie came out, because it came out earlier this month, like on the 2nd, February 2nd. Released, and it's just like I'm so surprised that we don't have more horror themed like Valentine's like day movies, because it seems like that would be the day. You know what I mean? Like in different ways. And then also what you said earlier with the mask, the Cupid mask. Wow. Like I've never seen. Just it was just so fitting. Like I wish I could find a mask like that just to have in my house, But yeah, it's just honestly, it's such a fun slasher. Like I know I said that earlier, but it really just makes me happy whenever I watch it. I'm just really happy that we chose this movie.
Oh yeah, it was a nice excuse to get to watch it again. And I'd say, even though I think that there's a lot of stuff like with Dorothy that's up for like you have to kind of interpret why she is the way she is. There's a lot of like heavy stuff to it, but it never comes across heavy. It comes across as fun and entertainment. But yeah, I mean, if you look at Dorothy, she is very complex. You can understand her low self-esteem and vulnerability at the dance, but then also want that like need to want to save face in front of the popular kids. But then like the guilt then of like always having to like over the 13 years of having to live with what she did, but then also you don't want to let go of that because that's maybe the reason why these girls have become your friends, and you have your father clearly loves his wife more than you, and I think that's probably why she stayed at the house, because it's like she wants to be loved, and that's clearly all she wants, but the problem is that she's like pushing people away now. And like I said, I think the twist when you find out like, because if you think about it, his revenge now, Adam slash Jeremy, is that she's going to be the one that everybody's going to think was guilty. So he finally gets to like have that revenge, but also he still kind of gets the girl. I like that sort of dark, not really a cliffhanger ending, but like I said, I'm okay with like I hate cliffhangers in general, but like if it's clearly to like enhance the feeling of the story, and you know that it's like a cliffhanger that's never going to have more, I'm good with that kind of a cliffhanger. And I thought it was great, the little twist within a twist. But overall, the energy's fun, and I feel like the reason why Valentine works so well is, in addition to the great cast, I think the direction and the suspense is spot on.
Mm-hmm.
This movie knew what audience was going to see it. It knew what was now expected of it. But like you have like a really a more complex chase sequence with Katherine Heigl's, I think her name's Shelley, with her character at the beginning in the morgue. So it's a simple setting, but it's like a more complex scene, body bags. But then you have Lily's, big moment. I love that it was like just right to the point. She's walking around for a minute and then bam, an
Yeah.
arrow, bam, an arrow. Because if you look at the set was so complex. You had these TV screens, this maze, all this stuff going on. So it would have been too much for them to have this almost chase sequence in there
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's still like a heightened sense of reality where like the arrows being shot, falling down the garbage. But overall, in terms of the other kills, it's very simple. And then then we get the next one with later on with Paige and stuff in the hot tub. I don't know. I think each one was done well. It was over the top without like crossing the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's one of the biggest successes of Valentine.
I agree. So I do have a question for you. With all the deaths or all the death scenes out of all of them, which one do you feel was the worst one? Who got it the worst?
Who got it the worst?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. I'll have to think about it, but my initial gut instinct is the one like sort of mean girl that was like all like was trying to get revenge on
Oh,
Campbell when she
yeah.
kind of hid in the room, and then that like when we watched it, I had forgotten about that sequence. So when she was like getting it, I kind of was in my seat cringing.
Yeah.
But if I had to give second place, it would. Oh, they were all really good. I mean, the body bag thing, but also the Paige in the hot tub though is one of the more
Mhm.
memorable ones. But
I
which one?
agree.
Which one do you think?
Page one, like you said, it is very memorable. And technically, she did say she'd rather be boiled alive. So
She
technically,
did.
that
Right.
happened.
Right.
But,
Right.
rewatching it, honestly, I think that Lily got it the worst. It's
Mm,
between Lily and Shelley. Lily, because it was just like you said, it was unexpected. She was just walking
yeah.
around, arrow, then another arrow, then she fell like
Yeah.
3 floors and she died, into the track and it slammed. There was no, even if she was kind of like, okay, I can probably be like, she's probably not going to have the strength to open that lid up and get out, you know? Somehow
Yeah.
she survived. And then with Shelley, I thought it was smart that she hid in one of the body bags, but then I'm just thinking, okay, but there's not a lot of bodies in that room when I
Right.
rewatched it. And it was just kind of like he checked every single one. And hers, it was just kind of like she knew it was coming when she heard the zip of the, what can you
Correct.
do?
Yeah.
You can't do
You're
anything. So
trapped. You're trapped. Trapped. Trapped.
yeah, and it's so crazy because again, for 20 years, it's just like I like the friendship dynamic. I
Mhm.
like the relationships. It still feels very modern and fresh. Like it doesn't feel dated until we see their phones and stuff.
For sure.
But
For sure.
it's just really just again just a fun slasher, and like I love the fact that again with these scenes like these killer like the death scenes, you kind of feel attached to the characters.
Mm.
Like I felt bad for Lily, even though we didn't really, even going back to Shelley, we didn't really know her, but we saw her on a date, you know, spelling out "help me." That guy, oh my
Right.
gosh, he
Right.
was terrible. But you felt connected with them. So
Absolutely.
that's all I asked for. It's like likable characters. Even Dorothy, even though she did what she did, you kind of wanted her to win.
Well, and I think because they gave her enough of a story that you could understand. Like I said, it was never like weighted heavy onto
Mhm.
you, like, oh, okay, whatever. But you feel for her, understanding without them going too much with it. But yeah, all the cast was incredibly likable. Now, have you ever read the book that it's based on?
No, I just found out that there's a book. That's
Yeah, I've
crazy.
I've never read it either, but from what I understand, it's very different, but it like still follows the same basic like this guy's out for revenge from something that happened at a party. So I think the
Mm,
characters are a little bit older in it,
okay.
but I definitely want to read it sometime. But yeah, I think like I like that they went with like this sort of just out of college cast.
Mhm.
Especially like okay, I did want to talk about Denise Richards. like for me, when I first saw the first thing I ever saw Denise Richardson was Starship Troopers.
Yes.
And I saw something else too, where she was kind of like the good girl. So my first initial impressions of her was like she was going to be like the good girl actress.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Wild Things, though, she definitely capitalized on it, but not in an obvious way because Paige is different than that character.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so I think both her and Nev Campbell after Wild Things were like expected to have these sexier sort of roles. But like, I really liked that they called her like when Dorothy and Marley Shelton's character Kate had that sort of final confrontation where Dorothy runs off right before she's like, Shelley's the brainy one, you're
Oh,
the popular one, and Paige is the sexy one. But I love the whole movie. Paige, even though she is the so-called sexy one, she does not take anything.
she
Like these
doesn't.
that one creepy, the creepy cop guy, he's all like putting his hand on her leg, and it's not
Yeah.
like leading into this sort of Skinamax,
Right.
sex scene. She's like, bye. Or the scene with the guy up in the room where she's like, you brought me up here to see your
Yeah.
penis. And and it could go to this like Skinamax scene, especially after Wild Things. Instead, she ends up getting her, she's like, here's your hot wax or your waxing or whatever. Like,
Right.
I loved it. I loved her character. So you do like, I mean, you definitely had more with her throughout the movie, so you would feel it. But I definitely, I don't want her to die now. Like, I liked her.
Right.
So when she's in there, you feel that. But yeah, even with Lily, even though you don't get a lot out of her, the
Mm-hmm.
actress's performance, and it was the same for me in Urban Legends 2 Final Cut, even though she wasn't there a lot, she was funny. She
Yeah.
had a sort of energy about her that you're like, no, stay around longer, you know?
And I love when Dorothy is saying like, you're the nice one, Lily's the fun one, and it was just kind of like, but you don't have to feel like she's not, you know what I mean? Like you could be the rich one. Like I don't know, I would try to make her feel better, but kind of like what you said, I keep on going back to Dorothy because it's just kind of like she is complex, and then on top of that,
Yeah.
she just had such low self-esteem.
She's
You
her
know,
own worst enemy.
yeah, and it's like you don't have a reason to. And it's like honestly, seriously, especially how with Paige and when they first in the beginning when they kind of do the speed dating, why don't you do that with them? It's like,
For sure. For sure.
it's like I don't know, it's just weird, but yeah, what a character. No, I'm interested in actually, reading the book because I
Me
feel like I
too.
don't
Me
know,
too.
like again, I had a lot of fun with the movie, but I kind of felt like I wanted more, you know?
Yeah. If I were, I had a thought come in my head when I was watching it the first time, and I'm thinking about it now, so I want to make sure I say this. But about the ending, if I could go back and change anything about it, or if I were going to remake it based on the film concept, because again, I think the book's a little different, but on the film concept, I would have really liked for maybe a darker ending to be. So it's set up again, like we said earlier, everybody's spoilers, so I don't want to hear about it. But like it's set up so that Dorothy's going to take the fall, and that's Adam slash Jeremy's like ultimate revenge. Like she's the one that actually betrayed him, so
Mm.
she's the one who's going to be guilty. But I wouldn't have minded a sort of ending where both Adam and Dorothy had kind of like planned this whole
Oh.
thing, like, and then she like, so they have Marley Shelton's character Kate, she's
Mhm.
the last one standing, chase sequence, and she's kind of like, why would you do this, Dorothy? But we already heard the fight, but then she's kind of like, I owed it to him, if Dorothy had been like
Oh
about
my
Adam,
God,
you know what,
yeah.
I owed it to him. I thought that would have been kind of a cool little twist, like,
It would have
so
been.
because they both ended up becoming like attractive,
Mhm.
and not that like when they were so-called unattractive as kids, if you will, which I feel bad saying those kids weren't unattractive.
They not
You
at
know,
all.
it's for the show, kids. But like as adults, they obviously grew up to be, David Boreanaz and Jessica Capshaw. So
Yeah.
like they clearly found each other, attractive now, and she owed it to him. I just thought I thought that would have been kind of a neat little spin if they
Mhm.
were gonna remake this.
You
Do
know
you
what?
think that
That actually would have been so awesome if they would have did something like that. Like I was just thinking, like, what if somehow, some way, if it was Kate, why would she do that?
right?
Because we wouldn't expect it,
For
but she doesn't
sure.
have a reason to. she's like a sweet little princess. But no, I really love that idea. See, I think that we should be like hired on to do the remake.
Yeah. Where is everybody? Hire us to do this. We've got
Hire
this.
us.
Good, okay? But like again, I do appreciate the ending. Obviously, they had set up the whole movie for the bloody nose thing. So then when you're sitting there with him in that moment, like it's such a dark, bizarre. He got the girl. The good guy got the girl after he killed all of her friends and everybody she knows. But like it's cool in that way too.
But that's what I find very weird. Like, I don't know. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable, not because it's actually funny. But it's just like, okay, right. Jeremy/Adam really, really loved Kate. And apparently he always has, right? He realized that you finally got her. Nobody has to know that you're Jeremy. Why do you have to kill all her friends? Why can't you just go after Dorothy? Just get her and then blame, you know what I mean? Maybe just have her kill the boys who were bullying you, and then you could just put the blame on her. So, but I don't know. It's so crazy how it worked out, because at the start of Dorothy's Valentine's, party, she was just really down, about Campbell. She felt like she got dumped by him. He didn't show up. So she's, sitting there eating her feelings and drinking wine and stuff. And it's just kind of like, you have a right to be sad. You do. But she was still trying to put on a smile. And it's like, you don't have to do that in front of your friends. You know what I mean? And then just the fact when her and Kate kind of got into it, and she kind of just like was going all in. Well, how do you know it's not Adam? And it's just like, okay, you're directing misdirecting your anger at this point. And it's just like, it was set up perfectly so she could take the blame, like kind of like what, Kate said at the end to Adam, that she was so happy a few weeks ago. And it's just like, that's crazy. Like, what, like if that happened, like, I'm really just trying to think about, okay, she loved her friends. Why would she kill them?
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know.
Well, I'll say that, like, I feel like with Dorothy, I think the problem is that obviously Dorothy, appearances mean everything. She walks around like almost as if she owns the house, but she knows that she has a sort of right to, because she's the daughter. So when it comes versus the stepmother, who's younger and thinner than she was at that age, or younger. And I think like Dorothy, again, they never say this, but I think that like the girls became friends because she was alone at the dance. The other ones were all hanging out together. I feel like it was after this event with Jeremy that she became popular, and that's when the girls took her in. So I think that she's never been able to let herself, that mixed with her like thing about appearances, she's never been able to let go of her pain, or like let go with herself, like be free with them. So I think ironically, the first time she has ever been completely honest with them was when she was versus Kate, and actually saying how I feel. Yeah. And depending on what Kate had done with that, and I think Kate is a decent human being, I think then those two, if none of the others ones, Dorothy would have finally had a real friendship, and she could have started letting everything go. But I think that she always kept everybody at an arm's distance, in order to, like, because she was holding the secret in a lie. Now, I do have to rethink this a little, because she did eventually tell Paige and Kate they were walking, and she did admit to them. So I think, but I think that was the first time in her, in her life she had been a real friend, because she wanted to base things on honesty.
Right.
And after that, because that started to flow, that's why she was able to finally not stand up to Kate, but, say all of her feelings. And again, but, that's, again, this movie is not that complex, but we're finding such depth in it.
We are.
We do care about it, because I cherish this movie. Again, it was at a time, when like movies like Disturbing Behavior and I'm blanking, the Urban Legend, all those came out. I always loved those, all of them. That was like, I was of that age, the age to finally, like, this was my generation. So, but when I went back and watched movies like Disturbing Behavior, there's a lot of like plot holes and stuff in it that I'm kind of like, I have to cringe a little when I watch it now. Like, and they even had taken out, they had filmed this whole deleted scene where like the two main characters are like running from the institution and they decide to have sex on the ferry. Then they keep running. Like it would have made no sense
What?
whatsoever. But even
Yeah,
even
like
remove that in the deleted scenes, it
I'm
still has
glad.
a lot of holes and like not making sense things. But Valentine, because it's never trying to be anything more than just a fun 80s throwback holiday slasher, it's successful then. And so I do cherish it and I do want people to like go back, like you said, you've seen a sort of like changing of the tides, people coming around to this movie and appreciating it for what it was. It was a pretty darn good movie for the time. You
Absolutely.
know, it wasn't Citizen Kane, it wasn't the next Halloween, but it was a solid holiday slasher, in my opinion.
I agree with you. And yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I went all in with Dorothy. Kind of like what you said. I do feel like we're like it's not complicated, but we're just kind of starting to think about some things. But I do have one more thing to say about Dorothy.
Well, hey, let
Okay.
me say though, real quick though, the fans of this show watching this are watching it because they want to know what we think of this movie because they love this movie, and I'm
Yes.
sure they thought it too. So please, Zena,
Awesome.
continue.
Okay. So, okay, when Dorothy when they were walking out after talking to the detective, it was Kate, Denise Richards, Paige, and Dorothy.
Right,
And
right.
then I think Kate asked, he did attack you that night, right? But here's the thing, before that even happened, Paige and Kate exchanged looks when Dorothy brought up Jeremy. And it's just like, I wonder if they knew that she was lying, you know? And, don't get me wrong, it's just kind of like that's a horrible thing what she did to him. That's a horrible thing how everybody treated him. But I'm thinking to myself, you guys didn't want to say something to her. Maybe not when you were kids because you were kids, you know?
Right.
But she clearly has major insecurities. She has a lot of problems. Like, and I would think that you would say something to her because you guys are friends. You know what I mean? So at least that's what I think about. Because when she said that, when Kate said that, and then Dorothy finally admitted, like, no, and she was like, "Do you guys remember how I looked?" And it's just like, come on, like you ruined his life, and like not saying that that should be his reason for running around killing people, not at all. But it's just like, okay, but you ruined his life, like, but
Yeah.
really not that much because Adam seems to be doing great. I'm sorry, it's
Right.
just
For
the
sure,
name.
for sure.
But no,
Well,
but yeah, that's all I had to say. It's just a lot of love for the movie.
Well, it makes me think of though, like Denise Richards' character, Page Two. She does start off as like the her versus Lily are like the two potential superficial ones. But as you watch the movie, they both turn out to not be superficial. They're not trying to be like show off this like
Right.
stronger side, but they're confident. They have a sense of
Hmm.
confidence. And I really liked with Paige as Denise Richards, who by the way, the young kids who were like their younger versions were all really great too. But I thought that
Right.
Denise Richards, the younger version, really looked like Denise
For
Richards. Like
sure.
that girl got cast for looking like that, and they did a good job. But I do think Paige is the one who like really started to like she was becoming she was at a point in her life, I think, where she was like, wait a minute, I am getting a lot of attention because of my looks and there's more to me than that.
Hmm.
And she started getting annoyed. Like she was annoyed with the cop. She was annoyed with what's his name in the
Yeah.
bedroom. And she's the first one to say, I believe, in the movie, like, God, we were so terrible to Jeremy. She's
Hmm.
the one that remembered him. And she's the one that like was kind of like, God, we were terrible to him.
Right.
And the fact that like she was kind of, because she was starting to see things more clearly when her and Kate and Dorothy are like talking after they're walking down that sidewalk, she's the one that's like, that is what happened, right? And does give
Uh-huh.
that right. And I feel like because she's the one that's becoming the most self-aware, like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, there's a lot of BS going on in our group
Yeah.
of friends and all this. And I really did like that. I don't really have a point to make. I just wanted to comment on that because I do think, talking to your point, if you look at the dynamics of the girls, Paige and Kate, I think were the best friends. Like they're the ones we see together. They're the ones
Right.
like going to the dating thing, clearly knowing each other's
Hmm.
personalities. And then even like Lily and Paige have a nice dynamic. And it almost seems like it's thrown on Kate more to be with Dorothy. And like she's always sort of their link. So you have to think back in time that Kate, who's so sweet and like, sure, maybe later Jeremy will dance. She's that one. That she's probably the one that brought Dorothy into their fold. But
Right.
like, even though none of the other girls mistreat Dorothy in any way, and even like Paige, when they're talking on the phone, she's like, "God, she's so ridiculous," but like in a friend way, you
Right.
never really feel that dynamic quite with Dorothy. There's a clear separation. And maybe that was designed that way so that when the twist all happens, like the first twist, the second twist, we can believe. Because you can believe it for a second, like, oh, it is her. You're like, oh no, it's him, it's
Yeah.
him. And I think that it's like a double payoff.
See, well said. Well said.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we said throughout many times in this episode, it's not a movie full of that much substance, but we sure are digging up a lot of like thoughts. But it's so good. It's a fun ride.
It is. And let me just say too, because of this movie and ever since this movie, whenever I have like a box of chocolate, even if I buy it for myself, because you know, I always break it in half. I can't bite into it. I would die if that happened to me.
I believe it. I believe it. It's so awful. I was starting to look at some pictures to put on this episode, and I have a picture of that, and I'm like, as I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can post it. We'll see. If I post it, it's going to be right here.
Okay.
But I don't know if I will because it's just so awful. I'm like, oh, I believe you.
God. Like, how did he even get those in there? Like, you know?
Right. Ew. Dedication.
Right?
Like I said, we keep trying to find like rationales for him, but he definitely was just a psychopath.
He was.
Like,
you saw his creative Valentine's Day cards. Like, those cards were pretty cool. But
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, but no, that's all I had to say about
I think that's me too. I just last time, people go watch it, give it another chance if you haven't seen it in a while. But I believe that more people, like you said, have been coming around to it, and I think that there's still a lot to enjoy. It's definitely worth a Valentine's. You know, if you got to choose between your Valentine holiday selection, and you've got My Bloody Valentine versus Valentine, you're gonna get a little bit more Valentine in Valentine. Coal miners. Again, yes, they definitely make Valentine references. It's there. And like you said, Valentine's movies should be more around because love is a scary thing. It can lead to a lot of heartbreak, terror, revenge, a lot of it. So there is a lot to be done with it. And for this spin on the Valentine's heart-shaped holiday, I think it does a really good job. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us for another episode of the Rabid Dog's House. What's your favorite holiday-themed slasher, and are you more of a fan of My Bloody Valentine or 2001's Valentine? Thanks again to Zena Dixon, the amazing Real Queen of Horror, who you can also find at Wicked Horror, realqueenofhorror.com, or on YouTube under her Real Queen of Horror moniker. And I'm Justin Steele. You can find me over at Wicked Horror, 411 Pop Culture, or on Twitter at Wicked Horror Justin. Thank you, Zena, for joining us tonight to talk about Valentine.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Valentine. Thank you. Go have fun.